So tonight we're going to be talking about three parables. They're real short and they kind of all flow together. So, it's not like it's three giant parables. But the first one we're talking about is the parable of the fishing net. So everything's in Matthew chapter 13. If you got your Bibles, you want to turn there. The fishing net starts in verse 47 through 52. Matthew chapter 13. Whoever wants to go there. I'll wait for y'all. That's good.
What did you say, Max? I'm sorry.
Matthew chapter 13, verse 47. Okay. Starting in verse 47, it says, "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a fishing net that was cast into the sea and gathered some of every kind." So, right there, Jesus is talking about heaven. He's talking about the kingdom of heaven. And the thing is, it says it goes into the sea and casts and gets one of every kind. That basically saying, hey, it doesn't matter what race, what religion, what your belief is, whatever, everybody is basically invited into the kingdom of heaven. And, it says that Jesus, when he died on the cross, he died for all sin, for everyone, not just people that go to Prospect or people that go to First Baptist or whatever. He died for everyone. And so everybody gets gathered up in this net. But we continue on in verse 48, it says, "Which, when it was full, they drew to shore, and they sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but threw the bad away." So what happens is they catch all the fish, right? They gather them all up, and once they pull them to shore, they start separating them. Good fish, bad fish. I'll use an example. A lot of people are playing this thing called Pokemon Go. I'm pretty sure I know these three right here and probably some others. You go out and you catch all these Pokemon, right? And you catch one, say you catch like a 700 Pikachu or whatever. But then you turn around and you catch a 10 Pikachu. What you gonna do with the 10 Pikachu, David?
Transfer?
You're gonna transfer that thing and try to get more candies. You're gonna throw that thing away. Because that's the bad Pikachu. You don't want that Pikachu because it's too weak. So that's the thing. And when they separated them, he separates them between the fish that accept Jesus and the fish that don't accept Jesus. The fish that accept the invitation to the kingdom of heaven, and then the ones that are separated. And he explains it in verse 49. He says, "So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come forth and separate the wicked from amongst the just, and cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth." So he's talking about the end times here. He's talking about when the harvest happens and when the judgment day comes, when the good is separated from the bad, the people that are separated from heaven and hell. And like they said one of the speakers said last week, you're going to spend eternity somewhere. Either eternally separated or eternally with Jesus. And that's what he's talking about here. And, you think about this big cast, and you think about how many fish there are on they talk about there's a lot of fish in the ocean. Well, yeah, there's about 7 billion fish in this big ocean of the world that we live in, and every one of them has been invited to the kingdom of heaven, but there's only a slim few that are going to accept that invitation, accept Jesus' invite to heaven, I guess you could say. And Jesus, in verse 51, Jesus asked, "Have you understood these things?" And they said to him, "Yes, Lord." Then he said to them, "Therefore every scribe instructed concerning the kingdom of heaven is like a householder who brings out of his treasure things new and old." So this parable he's talking to the disciples basically. And he tells them that whenever you're out teaching about the kingdom of heaven, to bring in the old and the new. Basically what he's telling the disciples is don't discriminate. Don't discriminate. Just, we judge people instantly, you know what I'm saying? We look at somebody and we're like, I don't need to tell them about Jesus because they look kind of sketchy. No, everybody needs Jesus. And that's what he means by bringing the old and the new in the household. We have to give everyone this invitation. Because, like I said at the beginning, Jesus died for all sins and not just ours. Not just mine or Sam's or David's. He died for everybody's sins at one time. And that's the thing. We have to understand that the whole net has been cast upon the whole entire world. and not just our own little world, not just our own little community, or our own little clique, as Adam would like to say. Next up, we got the parable of the hidden treasure. There it is. Parable of the hidden treasure. It's only 2 verses long. It says, "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and hid, and for joy over it he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field." So, Jesus is comparing the kingdom of heaven to a treasure that's hidden out in the field. Now, why is it hidden? Well, not everybody seeks out God, and only a slim few actually choose to follow God. And that's why it's hidden from all these people. The treasure is hidden. But this guy goes out and he finds it. And as soon as he finds it, it's everlasting joy. And that's the thing. Some of you probably remember the day you accepted Christ or the day you got saved. It's an awesome feeling. When you're sitting at a concert, you're sitting like Youth Week, Thursday night, Bo Hamilton gave a great message, and you see everybody standing up, and you see people crying, and you see people coming back, accepting Jesus. That's an awesome feeling. That's everlasting joy. And that's what this guy found in this hidden treasure. And that's what you will find in the treasure of Jesus Christ. And it says he sells everything that he has and buys that field. So, now, Jesus isn't saying, once you find me, go and sell everything you got, sell your house, sell your car. He's not saying material. He's not saying, possessions, materialistic things. He's saying sell yourself. Sell everything you got and accept this treasure. And that goes back to Luke 9:23. If anyone wants to follow me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. You got to deny yourself. You got to sell yourself. And, we always talk about being a bondservant for Jesus Christ. That's what it is. Selling yourself for the treasure. Selling yourself totally out for the treasure of Jesus Christ. The parable of the hidden pearl. That's the one right after that. Kind of the same deal. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls. So, we're that merchant, guys. I told some people last week at Youth Week that I believe every human being on planet Earth is born incomplete. Every human being is born with a hole in their heart, a void, I guess you could say. And we constantly seek out something to fill that void. And most of the time, it's sin, sadly. We seek out sin, whether it be in a cell phone or in a video game. The thing is, sin's not just bad things like drugs or alcohol or adultery, stuff like that. Now that is sin, but sin can also be putting other things in front of Jesus, prioritizing things above Jesus, whether that be yourself or TV or another person, a spouse or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, anything like that. That itself is sin, because it says in James, it says that if you know what's good and you don't do it, it's a sin. And obviously the best thing to do is put Jesus first, right? That's the best thing. But see, we're constantly seeking out these beautiful pearls, and the reason it's called a beautiful pearl is, when we think of sin, we think of dark. Sometimes we think of darkness, and especially Satan. Most people get this false misconception that Satan's like, red, little horns, devil tail, pitchfork, all that stuff. That's not Satan. Satan's beautiful like this pearl. Satan he's the great deceiver. He's going to deceive you with things that look good. And that most sin looks good at the time being, right? Whenever we're at a party or anything, that beer looks really good at the moment, and everybody else is doing it, so it looks even better. And then you take it. And then, you'll say, oh, well, it's just one beer. I'm not going to get hooked on it. Nah, then you get hooked on it. Because, see, the thing is, whenever you sin to fill that void that you're trying to fill, you sin once, but then you keep sinning again and again and again. Because, see, the thing is, sin never can fill that void completely. You're always going to want more and more and more to try and fill it. And it never works. Verse 46, it says, who when he found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. So he found this one pearl, this one beautiful pearl. Okay? And obviously this pearl is the kingdom of heaven. This pearl is Jesus Christ. Guys, Jesus Christ is the only thing that can fill that void. Only thing that can bring you everlasting joy. That's it. And when you find him, you got to realize something. I'll go back to the fishing net here. How many people have seen Finding Nemo? But please, for the love of God, everybody raise your hand. Please. Everybody's had to see Finding Nemo. Come on. But you think about it, everybody knows the story. Nemo gets lost, and then Marlin and Dory set off on this huge journey to go find him. Well, that's the thing, you know. Marlin sets out on this huge journey trying to find his son in this big giant ocean. That's the same thing Jesus did for us. Whenever Jesus died on the cross, he thought about each and every one of us personally. He died for you personally. He sought you out in this world full of sin and ripped you out of it when he paid that price for you, when he paid that price of death. That's the thing. And for some reason, we don't put him first. We don't put him in everlasting joy. We don't seek him out to fill that void. But the thing is, he's the only thing that can do it. He's the only thing. And, you know, I fail every day putting other things, prioritizing things above Jesus. And I shouldn't. But it happens because we're human. But the thing is, you know, seek that pearl, guys. Because like he says, he finds the pearl of great price. It's the most beautiful pearl. And once he found it, he sold everything he had and bought it, and he stopped looking. He stopped looking because once you abide in Jesus Christ, once you sell yourself completely out and fill that void with Jesus, you're not going to want anything else to try and fill it. Because it's all worthless. And that's what this merchant realized. When he bought this pearl, none of the other pearls in the whole entire world mattered anymore. Because this was the one that was the greatest. And that's the thing. Jesus Christ is that great prize. He is the greatest. He's all we got. And so fill that void in your hearts, guys, with Jesus. And sell yourself out. He sold all he had. Again, did he run into the door? Golly. But sell yourself out, guys. It's not easy though. When you think about selling out, when you think about selling yourself into slavery, it doesn't really sound good, right? A guy in the Old Testament named Joseph, you know, his brothers threw him in a pit and then sold him into slavery. That's kind of rough. I mean, selling yourself into slavery is rough, but look at what happened to Joseph after that. Joseph went on, lived the slave life, and then eventually began to climb the ladder and became the second highest guy in Egypt, the second guy in power. And that's the thing. Whenever you sell yourself to Jesus Christ, whenever you completely surrender and sell out, everything just starts falling into place. And it all just flows together. And it's because you put Jesus at the first priority. If you put anything else there, if you fill that void that you have with anything else, it's not going to flow. And I'm sure everybody has realized that at least once in their life, that when you try to sin and fill your heart with that to please you, it all ends up just falling through. And eventually you get to that low point where you have to reach out and cry for help. And you have to seek out this hidden treasure, this beautiful pearl that is Jesus Christ. But once you seek it out and once you fill your heart with it, guys, it's amazing. It's amazing. And you will want to sell yourself out for that if you haven't already sold yourself out completely. Because we talked about something last week, talking about, you know, second chair and Joshua's chair. I think most people were here. But the thing is, there's like he said last week, there's lukewarm Christians and then there's ones that are completely sold out. The thing is, you have to be in that Joshua chair. If you had to be in that sold out chair, if you ever want to reach the kingdom of heaven. That's what it says here. It says he sold all that he had, not just some, All. Every bit of it. Your whole life. That's what you got to sell out, guys. You got to sell out to get the kingdom of heaven. Seek out that beautiful pearl. But that's my 3 little parables for tonight. But, you know, it's so important that we sell out, guys. So important. So important. Because if we don't, we can't reach the kingdom of heaven. And the thing is, you know, we talk about living like Jesus. Well, Jesus sold out for us. I'm going to go to a verse that I highlighted in Philippians the other night. Real quick. Now that I think about it. See if I can find it. There it is. Okay. It's Philippians chapter 2, verse 6 through 8. It says, though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave us divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on the cross. Man. And it's talking about Jesus here, obviously. And it says, though he was God, you know, Jesus was God in the human form when he came down here. I mean, he was God, you know, Holy Trinity, God, Father, Holy Spirit, all connected. And it says, but he did not think with the equality of God. Obviously, God thinks, you know, God believes he's above everybody else because, you know, he's God. He's supposed to think he's above everybody else because he kind of is. But it says he didn't think that, and he gave up his divine privilege. Jesus gave up his seat beside God. You know, he didn't have to come down here and die for us if he didn't want to. But it says he took the humble position of a slave. He became a slave himself to the will of God. Jesus, though he was God, and he came down and took that position of a slave to God. He became a bondservant himself. And he became a human being, and he died a criminal's death on the cross for every one of us. If Jesus, you know, Son of God on earth, can become a bondservant, then we should become a bondservant for him, guys. We should sell ourselves out completely for him because he was willing to do that. He was willing to give up everything he had for filth and rags like us, for sinners like us. Died a criminal's death. That's one thing I like about this the most. It says he died a criminal's death, an innocent man, a man that had never sinned, white as snow, pure, holy. Died a criminal's death on the cross for you and me. People that deserved this kind of death. Because we do deserve this kind of death. We deserve to be nailed to a cross the way that we sin, the way that we act, the way that we obey God. But Jesus did it for us so that we didn't have to, so that we don't have to. Because once we sell out and once we totally abide in him, we'll get that divine privilege that Jesus has currently, sitting up there with God in this beautiful hidden treasure that is the kingdom of heaven. So, that's what I got tonight. Anybody got anything to add, take away? Comments?